Hello, and welcome to the SCI's third podcast. The last couple of podcasts have had a really good reception, so we thought we'd carry on in the same vein. So here are the answers to some of the questions that you've been asking over the last couple of weeks.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about tonight is milk. We were recently asked on Instagram for our opinion on commercially available cow's milk, and while we often ask clients to come away from it at first when they start a nutrition program with us. I explained in my reply, the main reason is that milk is actually pro-inflammatory. Many people, whether they're presenting with symptoms or not, are just intolerant to it. We try to initially eliminate any inflammatory foods for a couple of weeks before trying to reintroduce them.
However, having said that, if we remove cow's milk, we won't go straight back in with cow's milk. We'll start with things like goat's butter, goat's milk, and cheeses made from sheep and goat's milk. Providing there are no ill effects, we will encourage the client to try some cheese made from unpasteurised and grass-fed cow's milk. The reason we advise cheese from raw milk is because it hasn't undergone the heating and refining process, and the proteins and fats are left in their naturally occurring and still beneficial forms.
This time of year, Martin and I tend to go to a nearby farm and purchase raw milk, and we both notice an improvement in terms of how our joints feel.
Right, on to carb backloading. Carb backloading is a nutritional strategy popularised by Americans. It was sold to them so they would fast or just eat proteins and fats throughout the day. And then in the evening, ideally after weight training, people were encouraged to consume vast amounts of highly refined and processed carbohydrates. For example, ice creams, desserts, sweets, etc.
Now, obviously, this isn't a particularly healthy way of doing things, but the participants were really only interested in body composition, so how they looked, as opposed to their health. The thinking being that if they were leaner, then they had less health risk anyway, despite potentially being insulin resistant and pre-diabetic. We have, however, used a much healthier variation of carb backloading at the SCI, providing we're happy with the client's carbohydrate tolerance. We do prefer relatively fast digesting carbohydrate sources in the evening. Because of the quicker insulin spike and drop, this leads to a quicker release of growth hormone when we sleep. We will still always advise natural single ingredient carbohydrate sources like Thai or jasmine, basmati rice, fruit, etc.
The prescription of carb backloading is such an individual thing though, and depends on many factors such as goals, time restraints, time and type of training, occupation, etc. We are firm believers there is no such thing as a one-size-fits-all, and I think this is one of the reasons that our 8-week transformation and nutritional programming is so successful.
Okay, so the next subject we're going to talk about is BCAAs, or branched-chain amino acids. The benefits of BCAAs are listed far and wide, but for those of you that aren't aware, here are some of the most important. BCAAs enhance muscle protein synthesis. So the body is never just sitting still. It's either in a state of regeneration, which is where it's laying down new muscle. This is muscle protein synthesis. Or it's in degeneration, so that's breaking down muscle tissue for energy. And this is called muscle protein breakdown. BCAAs help ensure we are building muscle, not breaking it down.
So, on to leucine. Leucine is an amino acid that is extremely prevalent in all good quality BCAA products. It's thought to be the key to switching on muscle protein synthesis and has a massive positive effect on fat oxidation, meaning when amino acids are in high quantity in the muscles, we will burn more fat. And isoleucine will improve glucose tolerance, making us better able to tolerate carbohydrates. BCAAs support hormone balance. Trainees that supplement with BCAAs have higher levels of testosterone and lower levels of cortisol after strength training, and those that have a post-workout drink containing BCAAs recover much quicker and are able to train sooner than those that do not.
As a side note, some of you know that last year I dieted for my first UK BFF men's physique show. I dieted for about 20 weeks. I had a good friend on my side to assist with my nutrition, but as I got leaner, the potential to lose lean tissue becomes much, much higher. And I'm very confident that my continued use of BCAAs throughout the diet allowed me to hold on much more muscle than I have done when I've dieted before without BCAAs.
Right, so on to nuts. Now, we all know nuts are little nutritional powerhouses. They have a great source of protein, fat and fibre, as well as minerals, etc. But what are the best nuts to eat and what's the recommended intake? Obviously, providing there are no underlying allergies or digestion problems, we are happy for our clients to consume all types of nuts. We typically advise them to go easy on peanuts and peanut butter, as the peanut is one of the most hyperallergenic foods around. So if you are going to have an allergic reaction, these could be the cause.
This doesn't seem to be the case for any of the other nuts, and our favourites tend to be walnuts and Brazil nuts. Brazil nuts have a high level of selenium, which has been shown to improve hair and eye health, helps the body absorb vitamin E, which in turn assists in preventing the formation of cataracts. Selenium also helps the body process and use proteins that are consumed, and finally it's been shown to reduce the likelihood of prostate cancer.
Walnuts, on the other hand, have been shown to reduce the risk of breast cancer, reduce the risk of diabetes. They also contain antioxidants that improve heart health. They help us deal with stress and are packed full of omega-3s. Nuts also contain something called choline, which is a precursor to the neurotransmitter acetylcholine. This has been shown to improve memory and cognitive function.
As a side note, I've recently been experimenting with soaking nuts in cold water overnight before allowing them to air dry, or if you're in a hurry, you can pop them in the oven on a very low heat. What this does is it helps neutralise the anti-nutrients in them and is known as activating them. Another reason is because nuts and seeds contain something called phytic acid. Now what phytic acid does is it binds to the minerals zinc, magnesium, calcium, chromium and manganese in the digestive tract, making them completely unavailable. Now, zinc and magnesium are important for boosting testosterone, which in turn, as we know, is necessary for toning and building muscle and burning fat, as well as a whole host of other things.
So, thanks for listening. We hope you've enjoyed the podcast and found it beneficial. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook to keep track of them.
We look forward to bringing you guys another one next month.